Ural clutch install. Well, I have all the parts I need to install the clutch in Mrs. Carl Uralato's rig, so I'm getting ready to do that. I have the new screws, 6 new springs. There's one. I've got the other 5 in the flywheel. I'll show you a little trick that I use to hold them in there. And then here are the clutch pieces, the pressure plate, clutch plates, intermediate plate, and the thrust plate. Also a word on the clutch alignment tool. I bought one from Ural. I highly recommend you use this. I know a lot of people say use a broomstick and drive it through the plates, but this has something that the broomstick doesn't. It's got that little tip on the end, and that fits inside the pressure plate. So when you go to align everything, it actually aligns the end exactly to where the clutch release rod goes through the plate. Another thing that I did before I show you the trick with the spring is I marked my, if you can see those, I marked my pressure plate, 1 tooth on the top and 1 tooth on the bottom there. On the back side, I took a straight edge and I drew a line right through the 2 places where the clutch springs go, and that's the tooth I marked. And then over on the flywheel, I marked a corresponding tooth there and there. So when I put the clutch plate in, I know exactly where it goes, so the recessions for the springs line up with the springs. Now just real quick, we'll put this last, what I use is I use a little square of toilet paper, and all I do is I wrap it around the spring, and then I take the spring and I shove it in the hole. And it's amazing, that little piece of toilet paper holds that spring in there nicely. It doesn't wobble, nice and stiff. And then I'll start stacking the pieces in there. Now I'll be setting the camera down in order to do this, so let me show you the order. Okay, so the first thing that goes in is the pressure plate, and it's got a dimpled side, so you want the dimple side to go in first, so you're looking at the recessed side. Then on top of that, you have a clutch plate, the first clutch plate, and that has a side where the center of it sticks out like that. You want that to be facing you, just like that on top of the pressure plate. Then what's next is the intermediate plate. These teeth line up to go inside the flywheel, and that rests on top of that clutch plate. Then you have your second clutch plate, and again it has an area in the center that's raised, and that raised section faces out. So you're looking at it. Then when you get all that lined up, you're going to stick your tool down in there and line up all those pieces, and then you'll be able to put your thrust plate on, which holds it down. And just like we did when we took it out, I'm going to take just the opposite. I'm going to take these bolts, 3 of them, I'm going to run them into the flywheel, turn the nuts down, and then slowly turn the nuts down to put pressure on the springs until everything is inside the flywheel. And then I'll put 3 screws in, I'll take the bolts out, put 3 more screws in, and we'll be done. First is the pressure plate, and I'm going to line those red marks up. I put them on the flywheel. Bob mentioned this to me, is that these clutch discs have these holes in here, and we want to try to line those holes up with the holes in the pressure plate. So I'm putting the bolts in. I got the hole as best you can. I got the holes in the clutch plate lined up with the holes in the pressure plate there. So I'm putting the last of the bolts in that we're going to use to draw down everything. Got the holes in the clutch as best you can lined up with the holes in the pressure plate. And now the trick is you're drawing this down, is you got to get the teeth of the intermediate gear lined up with the flywheel as you draw it down. And so it takes a little bit of finesse, a little bit of, I don't know the word to use, but I know when I did it on my rig, and I did it with it inside the engine, it took it a little while to get to that point. So hopefully I learned a couple of things, and I can get the teeth lined up and going in the way they should. The big thing is once you get those teeth near the flywheels, you got to make sure that you draw it in